everyone. Thank you for joining us on my Wednesday Live at 5, where I like to bring someone to you from our community champions who we genuinely really appreciate. So today we have the amazing Carolina. I'm really delighted that you've decided to join us today, Carolina, and we really appreciate everything you're doing. So Carolina is a Salesforce professional. She's got over 10 years of experience across Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Experience Cloud, and she's worked across full development life cycle, and she brings great expertise today within Apex, Lightning Web components, integrations, and automations. So today we're going to explore the journey that she's taken. I love to hear everyone's stories and the projects that she's worked on, and the challenges, obviously, that she's faced, which is really good. So to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how tech has transformed your career from software engineering into Salesforce, please?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Lynn. Well, to start, after I graduated from college, I started working with ASP.NET technologies and classic ASP. I was building enterprise applications and designing relational databases, specifically with SQL. That experience gave me a strong foundation in my backend development, the system designs, and also working closely with business stakeholders to deliver the final solutions. During this time, I was working on this company. It was a global telecommunication company, and I was first exposed to Salesforce. In the beginning, I started supporting the platform with small requirements that sometimes didn't even require any code at all. And quickly, I learned how powerful it was for building business applications rapidly without any code compared to traditional development. And that really sparked my interest. And I started learning Apex and the other Salesforce tools. After that, I started transition into a full-time Salesforce role where I could combine my software engineering background with platform-specific development. And over time, I expanded into Lightning components, integration, automations, and things like that. What I could say what really helped me in this transition was my programming background, because I was able to go beyond configuration and build scalable and customized solutions, and only by leveraging the available tools Salesforce provides. But even today, I can say that the core software engineering mindset still plays a big role on how I approach these problems that I face every day.
That's great. And, as I said at the beginning, it's always so great to hear everyone's stories, because everyone has such a great story to tell on where they came from, and what brought them to here. But, you've grown from a developer to a lead role managing teams. What has helped you make that transition, and how did your mindset change along the way?
Absolutely. Although I'm not occupying this role at this moment, I can talk about a bit how it was back in that time. The transition didn't happen overnight. It was more of a gradual shift as I took on more responsibilities. Early on, what helped me the most, it was like I consistently was stepping up in areas outside just coding. Like I was performing admin tasks, scoping and designing solutions, mentoring junior developers, improving development standards, and so on. I will also make an effort to understand the business context behind the solutions, and not just the technical implementation or the requirements. And that made it easier for me to understand and to contribute at a higher level.
That's great. No, it's again, thank you for sharing your answers with us. You recently worked on Service Cloud solutions. I know that. I say recently. I know that was probably previously now, but that included Experience Cloud and portals and integrations. Can you walk through maybe? Probably not that recent, but the last project that you did that was complex or maybe interesting.
Yes, it was actually very recent. That I work in a Service Cloud implementation, which included customer-facing features for an Experience Cloud portal. The main goal for this project was to have a way for the customer to interact with support from the customer websites. Things like submitting cases through web forms, tracking their requests, accessing relevant information, in everything in a self-service way, without any agent or service agent interacting. I work as part of a team, and I developed several of these features using Lightning Web Components specifically, to ensure a responsive and a user-friendly experience. I can talk about a few more. For instance, this was very interesting. It was an integration of a chatbot with Omnichannel, and that required a lot of effort on doing the investigation for this, because I needed to route the customer to a specific queues based on their interest. Also, another very challenging was the migration of the process builder into flows. And since some of these automations were tied to current customer service processes, and we had to be very careful to avoid the disruptions on this system. The experience I've got working on these projects is particularly interesting because the combination of multiple layers, like I was using front end with Lightning Web Component, back end, and a lot of automation. In the end, the goal of building these solutions was to help reduce the manual workload for the service agents and improve the response times for the customers. I can say I'm really glad I have the opportunity to have work on these projects.
Yeah, I think, again, it's always great to hear how, you've come from where you started. You've done these incredible projects along your career, and it's always nice to hear, how it's supported you and just to understand a little bit about your journey, I suppose. But you've had some strong experience, I know, as we've spoke before, with integrations, real-time data, using external objects and APIs. How do you approach designing solutions that are both scalable and, of course, more importantly, maintainable?
Yes, absolutely. That is a very great question because I learned that the hard way. I can say for maintainability, it is very important to go with an architecture that is loosely coupled. That means that implementing abstraction layers, which is essentially a set of Apex service classes that can handle all the external communication, and the rest of the application will interact with these interfaces and never with the raw code, the raw API. This approach really isolates the impact of making changes for a specific component and prevent the effects of changing the entire solution. I will also prioritize anytime that is possible, declarative tools, like, for instance, using flows or custom metadata, or custom labels, things like that, anytime when possible, because it's easier to make changes to the logic. Anyone not only a developer can do it. From a scalability standpoint, I rely on asynchronous processing, batch apex queuable platform events, especially when the integration involves high data volumes or to avoid interruptions of parallel actions. I will also pay close attention to the governor limits. It's really important, and design patterns to avoid hitting those limits.
Yeah, and I suppose, I mean, again, all great to hear, but I know something you mentioned back about when we were talking about different projects that you've done. And we talked about, you've worked on migrating Process Builder to flows, obviously complex, that can have its own complexity as well. What are the key lessons or the best practices that you would share with others going through a similar transition?
Yes, a lot of learning there. One of the biggest lessons that from this migration is that it's not just a one-to-one translation. It is an opportunity to redesign and simplify the current automation. A common mistake we made is trying to replicate the exact same logic without even trying to wonder if we can improve. I usually start by analyzing the existing processes. I identify the redundancy. I consolidate them into fewer, if it is possible, and more structured flows. This reduces the complexity and makes the system easier to maintain as well. Another key best practice, I would say, is to standardize, for example, using record trigger flows with clear entry criteria, separating the logic into subflows when it becomes too complex, or to make it more modular, and this will make it easier also to reuse and also to read the process. The testing part is also critical, since the process builder and flow can behave slightly differently, especially with the execution order. And I will make sure to validate all the cases, and the regression through all the end-to-end, to avoid breaking existing functionality. The performance is another thing to consider, because the flows are really powerful and can impact the performance. So it's really important to minimize unnecessary queries. Also the loops, try to optimize as much as possible. And finally, I can say the documentation and naming convention, because having clear flow names, descriptions, and a consistent structure can help others that comes after you to maintain and understand what's really these flows are doing.
I think that is so important, making sure that you name everything and you put descriptions. I think you're so right on that. I think it's really important to make sure that it's assisting other people that come after you, because there's nothing worse than coming into something and not having the answers. So just, I suppose another question I would have for you, with everything that you're telling us, what's been the most, and there's probably many, but we're going to say the most, what's been the most challenging technical problem that you've had, and how did you solve it?
Yes, well, as you said, there has been many, but I think I can remember this one particularly because even though it was a few years ago, I still remember it was really challenging.
There's always one.
Yes, I had to design a custom territory management solution because the standard Salesforce functionality didn't meet the client's requirement. So it was a very specific and dynamic way they had to assign the ownership for the accounts to their sales persons. It was based on multiple criteria like the geography, specific business rules, and also frequent changes in a structure performed by a designated user. Only one person was making these changes. So the out of the box territory management from Salesforce couldn't handle this level of flexibility, and we needed to create a custom solution that they can use using Apex sharing at this moment. So the complexity came because we needed to align, calculate, and assign access without hitting the governor limits. Uh, we needed to ensure that data visibility was always accurate and updated in near real time. Uh, you know, mostly after the change happened, and the third one, I will say, the performance. It was critical because it was a high volume of records. So to solve this problem, I designed and built a modular approach. It was like separating the code into reusable components, and also using asynchronous processing to handle these updates of the large data, and ensure the system remain working, not blocked. I also implemented a strategy to recalculate shading when necessary, and instead of recalculating every time, only when it was really needed. And on top of that, work closely with stakeholders to validate the logic and make sure the solution match what they were really asking for. And also, in the end, we deliver a scalable and flexible solution that gave the client a full control over this territory model. And it performed really well. And even when the data will grow, it will continue working very good.
Wow. What can I say? You are certainly going to be an inspiration to many people for sure. I mean, that's incredible what you did. So, congratulations and well done. I think everyone wants to solve a problem, but you've gone above and beyond, I think. So, just finally, for anyone watching who wants to move into maybe a senior or a lead Salesforce role, what advice would you give them?
Sure. Well, to start, for as a developer, it is always easier to focus on only writing the code. But senior roles really require understanding the big picture, understand the business rules, involved with the users, to understand what they do, what they really want, and how they work. The I think the key is to spend time understanding the why behind the requirements and not just execute what is being asked. So I would suggest also taking initiative, volunteer for more responsibility, mentor others, participate in code reviews, get involved in design discussions, because those experience naturally prepare us for senior roles.
Yeah, and I think, absolutely right there. Knowledge is power. The more you have,
Yes.
the more you can do. But, absolutely, it's been an incredible conversation. I've absolutely loved hearing your story today. It's been really nice to hear your journey and, and your insights. And I'm sure that everyone else that's watching today has really enjoyed that. I would say that anybody watching out there who wants to find Carolina on LinkedIn. I'm sure if you've got a question that you wanted to ask her, I'm sure she'll be happy to respond to you. She'll be happy to connect with you. And as you'll probably know from my previous sessions, we have lots of community champions with lots of experience who join Supermums, and we are incredibly grateful to every single one of you. So thank you so much for joining me today. Was there anything you wanted to add before we finish?
Thank you, Lynn. It was great to be here and share all this journey.
Great, thank you very much. And like I say, thank you very much for joining us today. And I'll see you next week with another incredible community champion. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.